Does this problem sound familiar? You're playing Minecraft, maybe you're doing some mining, maybe some mining underwater, or even just trying to pick up all of that scaffolding that's gone everywhere, and the items are just too far away for them to come to you. Wouldn't it be nice if you had some sort of magnet enchantment or magnet item that allowed you to draw those items in from further away? Well, in today's how to make add-ons video, I'm going to be teaching you exactly how to make some add-on enchantments using the new armor trim system, some custom items, and a little bit of the beta API system as well. So let's get into it, shall we? Okay, so for this we're going to be making a magnet template, some magnet boots of different powers, and we're going to be doing this a very easy way, and we're going to be doing this a slightly more complicated way using the beta API system to make it better. Before we start this, there are a couple of points to note, and one of those things is that unlike normal armor, which can obviously be enchanted, custom items and custom armor cannot be enchanted. However, when we come to upgrade our iron boots to become magnet boots, they will take on the enchantments of what we've already got. So it is possible to put mending and unbreaking and things like that on these boots before we turn them into magnet boots. So just bear that in mind. And to do this, we're going to be playing with the trimming system, and iron boots and any other type of boots, obviously you can trim and you can put your magnet boots in there, but they won't actually have any trim applied because, well, I don't know, it doesn't work. And the other thing to note is that if you want to pick a different item to convert your boots into magnet boots other than a netherite ingot, you cannot. The game will only allow you to upgrade things using netherite ingots. Don't ask me why that's hard-coded, it just is. Anyway, let's get into this. The first thing I've done for this pack is pre-made some textures just because I wanted to skip through that as quickly as possible in the video. I've made some magnet boots, I've made a magnet smithing template, and I've just copied over the netherite armor model and just changed that a little bit as well for the boots when it's being worn by the player. And I've put these into a textures folder. In the items folder is where the boots are in the magnet template, and in the models, then armor is where the magnet1.png file is. And if you want all of these again, you can get these from my website, which I'll tell you a little bit more about later. And obviously with that basic preparation, I needed to create folders for this. So I've got magnet B. I do have a prep folder. I've already done this once, so I know how to do it. I've got my magnet R in my development resource packs folder. And if you don't know how to set any of this up, then check back some of my other how-to videos because all the information is in there. And I've added in the manifest files, but these ones are a little bit different from the ones in the last episode. As you'll see from the behavior pack manifest, there's a bit more going on here. We have a data module, which basically allows it to pull from the normal folders other than just the scripts folders, which we've got from the beta API system here. We've also got a dependency for a resource pack because we've got a resource pack on this one, which has its own manifest file, and we have a dependency for the Minecraft server beta API system as well. Don't forget, all of the resources for this add-on are available on FoxyNoTail.com, and while you're fiddling about going to different websites and whatnot, why don't you hit that like button and consider subscribing for more of these videos? So realistically, the first thing we're going to need to do is make some items. So I'm going to make an item folder, and inside that folder I'm going to make a new file, and I'm going to call it magnettemplate.json, and this is going to be a custom item which is like a smithing template. Now I could say you can go and grab those from the game files and copy and paste it, but unfortunately they don't give you access to that, so you're just going to have to copy and paste what I'm doing, which is exactly what I'm going to do from the one I've already made. So as you can see, I've got a magnet template here, and basically it describes a Minecraft item. It's got a description with a name. It's got some components such as the maximum stack size, the icon, which it's pulling from the texture folder, whether it's hand decrypt or not, which I don't actually want because that makes it really weird. So I'm going to take that out. The display name, which is the name of it when you're holding it. And this is the most important feature here. It's got a tag, Minecraft transform templates, which allows you to use it in smithing table recipes. So I'm going to copy all of that and I'm going to paste it into my new magnet template file, and I'm going to save that. And that's as simple as that needs to be. So let's make the boots. We'll make a new file. We'll call them magnetboots1.json, and this is going to be the magnet boots with the level 1 enchantment. And this one's a little bit more complicated, so I'm going to copy and paste it in and then go through what's in here. So the same thing, we've got a format version, we've got an identifier as magnetboots1, we've got a maximum stack size of 1 because it's armor. If you have more than that, then all sorts of weird duplication things go on, and then we actually call it armor, Minecraft armor. I've given it protection level of 4, which I think is equivalent to diamond, and a texture type of netherite, which is just how it will render on the body. I've made it wearable using the Minecraft wearable component. I made it dispensable, which means you can dispense it from a dispenser onto a person or a armor stand. And I've told it that it goes in the armor feet slot so that it's going in the right place on the player. There's also a thing called Minecraft Repairable, which allows you to repair it either on a crafting table or an anvil, and you can decide what items you can repair it with and how much of the durability it will repair. So because these boots are going to be transformed from iron, because iron is, well, magnetic, I guess, it's a ferrous material, I'm saying that you can repair a little bit with an iron ingot, a lot with a netherite ingot, and if you've got other pairs of magnet boots, particularly level 1, 2, and 3, that will also allow you to repair these items with those, giving it more durability for each item. And that brings me to the Minecraft durability component, which basically has a maximum durability, which is the equivalent of netherite, and then you've got a damage chance, how likely this armor is to take damage when you are damaged as the player, and this I've basically stolen from the equivalent of a diamond set of armor. I don't know what the default values for netherite should be, so I've just added those in. There is a Minecraft hover text color component. When these are enchanted, the writing on them will be light blue. The Minecraft icon corresponds to that texture that we created. And in the display name here, I've done something a little bit different. I've got Magnet Boots 1 using the Roman numeral I. And then I've got /n, which means new line. And then I'm using this symbol followed by a 7 to give this a color. So it drops to a new line. It says upgrade. And then it drops to a new line and it says magnet power. So upgrade will be in gray, magnet power will be in red, and that's determined by the C there and the 7 there. And this just allows it to look a little bit more like how trim looks once you've actually trimmed it. It says upgrade and then what the trims are. Finally, and again, the most important tag on here is the tag Minecraft Trimmable Armors, which means that you can use this on a smithing table. Unfortunately, it doesn't actually allow you to apply trims to the armor, which sucks, but it does allow us to actually make these boots work, so it's necessary. And now I need to just copy that twice, so I'm going to hit Ctrl-C, Ctrl-V, Ctrl-C, Ctrl-V, rename Magnet Boots 1 copy to Magnet Boots 2, rename Magnet Boots 1 copy 2 to Magnet Boots 3, and inside each of these files I just need to change these appropriately. So this is going to be Magnet Boots 2, and down here it needs to be Magnet Boots with a Roman numerals 2 next to it. And that's pretty much it for that one. And then in Magnet Boots 3, we're going to change that to a 3 there, and we're going to add 2 eyes on this one to make it Magnet Boots 3. Those are our custom items pretty much completely done. However, as much as we have our textures in the resource pack folder, we don't actually have any way of telling the game those textures exist, so they're not going to work. So we need a couple more files within the textures folder. We need an item texture.json file and a textures list.json file. So let's right click on there, do new file, item texture.json, and another file, textures list.json. And in the textures list, all it does is tells the game that we've got some textures within the textures items folders and says what they are. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to paste it in there. Now, this pack will work without this, but Mojang very much like you to add this in because it optimizes it a little bit for the game. So we're going to save that, and I'm going to add in an item that was missing as well, because we've actually got textures, models, armor, and then magnet 1. If we look in our folder here, textures, models, armor, magnet 1, and that should be in there as well. So I'm going to save that. And then our item texture 1, well, again, I'm just going to copy and paste from what I've already got here and then talk through it. So I'm going to open my new item texture file, paste that in, and the first thing is resource pack name. Now I'm calling this Magnet Boots. You can call that whatever you want. You can put vanilla in there. I wouldn't recommend it because you might end up having something in here that overwrites something from vanilla. So it's always good practice to put in your own custom name there. Then you've got texture name, which is Atlas items. Don't change that. And then the texture data is basically telling you which items, and this is just for the custom items, this isn't for the armor as well. And this magnet template here corresponds to the magnet template texture here in the Minecraft icon for the magnet template.json file. So you're telling it this is what the texture is, and basically the link to the texture there. You don't need the .png on the end of it, although you can add it, it will work. But whatever that says there needs to be exactly the same as whatever that is there. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Likewise, the magnet boots, whatever you've got here for magnet boots needs to be exactly what is in your magnet boots files for the texture thing there. Otherwise, it won't work. So now that we've got those in there, we can save that. and that is our custom items almost completely done. So I've made a copy of the Magnet Boots prep world that I've done. I've removed the behavior packs and resource packs from those, and I'm going to put in the brand new packs that I've made, Magnet Boots, and that should automatically take the resource pack in there because they're linked with the dependencies. That's exactly what they're for. And if we go in here, we're going to get an error telling me that we don't have an index.js file because we've put that in the manifest but not actually done that bit yet, which is fine. Let's go to search for magnet. We'll see that we have the magnet items in here, and this is what I was talking about with that title. You can see it's Magnet Boots 1, and then a new line upgrade, and then a new line magnet power. And if I put those on, which I can wear them, you'll notice that on my character, nothing's rendering at all. They don't show up. I can put them in the smithing table, but we have no recipe yet to actually do anything with that, so that's not going to work. So we've still got a little bit of work to do. In order to get these items to show on our player, we need a new folder in our resource pack folder. So we're going to create a new folder, and we're going to call it Attachables. And as you can see here, I've got 6 files in my prep folder, 2 for each sets of boots. So I'm going to create a new file in the Attachables folder called magnetboots1.json, open up the one I've already made, copy and paste it in, and then talk through what's in there. So basically what this is telling the game that when you attach this to a player or an entity, it becomes an entity itself that renders on the player or the entity. So we've got Minecraft Attachable, the description, the identifier is FXNT Magnet Boots 1, and that needs to be exactly identical to what you've put in for your custom item identifier here. Whatever you've got in your custom item identifier has to go in there. They have to match or it won't work. Materials I've just copied from the Attachables files that's in the game, which is the default is armor, and the enchanted one is armor enchanted, which gives it the glint. The textures are exactly the same. However, you'll notice this time I've put my magnet 1 there instead of netherite 1 or diamond 1, which would come as the default ones from the game. The geometry I've left as default, as I've copy and pasted from the vanilla files, which is geometry humanoid armor boots. And the scripts I've left exactly the same, and the render controllers I've left exactly the same. So the only things I've changed in here from vanilla armor are the identifier and the magnet 1 default texture. So I'm going to save that, and I'm going to do the same thing for all of these files. So new file, magnetboots1.player.json. Now, in my testing, this file's not actually required, but it exists in the vanilla game, so I'm going to add it in anyway. So if we go to the one I've already prepared, we'll copy and paste that in here, and then looking at that, you can see the identifier is magnetboots1, which is what we used before, .player, and there's a new thing here saying item Minecraft netherite boots query owner identifier Minecraft player. Well, that's wrong. That's not the item. The item is FXNT magnet boots 1, and then everything's exactly the same as it was, again, apart from the magnet 1 on the default textures. And I think this is basically saying if it's the player that's got it on, then do something slightly differently than if a mob is wearing it. So like I say, it works whether or not you've got this file or not, but just for good measure, I'm adding it in. And I've gone ahead and copy and pasted Magnet Boots 2 and Magnet Boots 3 files as well. And as you can see, going back to the world, I am now wearing my Magnet Boots. So all 3 levels of this. So we've got Magnet Boots level 1 on at the moment. Let's put on level 3. Yep, they show as well. And if I put on level 2, they show as well. So that's absolutely fantastic. That's all working perfectly. So our custom armor is completely done. Now we need to make it so we can make this in game, and then I guess actually make it do something. So as far as coding goes, our resource pack is now 100% complete. We don't need that anymore. We're going to be only focusing on the behavior pack side of things now. And the next thing we're going to need are some recipes. So I'm going to create a new folder, call it recipes. And in there, we're going to have magnetboots1.json, and this is going to be the recipe for the smithing table that turns iron boots into magnet boots level 1. And as you can see, I've already prepared this file as well. On my prep file, I did put .recipe.json instead of just .json, and that just makes it easier to find things when you're searching through lots of files later on, but it doesn't need it, so I'm not going to add it in this one. The format version 1.12 is just the latest format version for Minecraft recipes, so that's quite important that it's on that. You can put a later version in there, but it won't make any difference. We have a Minecraft recipe smithing transform. That is the type of recipe. We are transforming an item using the smithing table. The description, the identifier, is the FXNT Magnet Boots 1. Now, this is a good idea to make this reflective of your actual item identifier, but it's actually not essential for the recipe because the way we determine what item we get from this is actually as part of the results part here. What is essential though is the tags. We need to tag this as smithing table, otherwise we don't know what crafting table this recipe will work on and the game just won't use it. Then we've got the template. What smithing template are we going to be using? And that is our magnet template. So again, going back to that file, FoxyNoTail magnet template, whatever's written there needs to be in here, identical, the same. And that's saying that we're using that item as our template. The base can be any Minecraft item you want. I've picked to go with iron boots because if we're making a magnet enchantment, it makes sense to me that they're on something metal that would be magnetic. As much as I've just said you can use any item in the game, any item you use does need to have the tag Minecraft trimmable armors, otherwise you just can't put that item into the smithing table. So it will work with vanilla armor and it will work with any custom armor, but if you was to try and put an apple or something in there, it just won't have it. The addition is Minecraft netherite ingot. It would be amazing if we could put any item in there to work, but it will only allow you to use netherite ingot. Let me demonstrate. What if I wanted to use a diamond as the material instead of a netherite ingot? Well, loading up the game, it's going to throw me an error, which makes no sense at all because this is a customizable recipe, but it says smithing transform recipe addition item is not a netherite ingot, and therefore going to the smithing table and putting all of the right items in, it's not going to work because even though it allows you to pick an item, it don't actually do it, which is stupid. So because this is a transform recipe, it has to be a netherite ingot. So we're going to leave netherite ingot in there. And our result is the item we're going to get back, which is FoxyNoTail Magnet Boots 1. So I'm going to save that, go back into the world. And then when I go to the smithing table, we've got the template, the iron boots, and then a netherite ingot. And that's going to give us Magnet Boots level 1. But we also want to be able to get Magnet Boots level 2 and 3. So how are we going to do that? Well, the easiest way to do that is with a couple more recipes. So let's copy and paste this recipe twice, rename them to Magnet Boots 2 and Magnet Boots 3. Make sure in Magnet Boots 2 it is called Magnet Boots 2 up there, and the result will be Magnet Boots 2. But this time, instead of the base, putting iron boots in, I'm going to put in Magnet Boots 1 as the base. So we can take our Magnet Boots level 1, put them back in with another magnet template, and make another set of magnet boots with a higher level. And we're going to do exactly the same thing for Magnet Boots 3. We're going to change that to 3 there. We're going to put our Magnet Boots level 2 into the base instead of iron boots. And then we're going to get Magnet Boots level 3 out. And going back into the game again, ignoring the error from the beta API system because we haven't added that in there yet. Let's put in our template and our ingot. And now when we put Magnet Boots level 1 in there, we're going to get Magnet Boots level 2. And then we put Magnet Boots level 2 in there, we're going to get Magnet Boots level 3. But these boots don't actually do anything at all yet. We can wear them all we want, but they're not going to do anything because they're not magnetized. So I guess we need to do that. The other thing we need to do is make this smithing template duplicatable. We need to be able to duplicate this smithing template and find it in the world as well. Otherwise, how are you going to get hold of it? So we need one more recipe, and we're going to call this one magnet template duplicate.json. You can call it whatever you want. It really doesn't matter, but that's what I'm going to call it. And again, I already got one that I got before that I copied and pasted from the vanilla files. So I'm just going to paste it in there and talk you through it. So you'll notice the format version is the same. This time we've got Minecraft recipe shaped, which means it is a recipe that works on the crafting table that has to have a specific shape to work. The identifier is FoxyNoTail magnet template duplicate, which is what I've called the file, and the tag is crafting table, again, very important. Now the pattern, if we change this a little bit so you can see what's going on, these are the 9 slots in your crafting table. So that is the top left, that's the bottom right, and basically the different symbols in here are then denoted by these different items here. And you can call that whatever you want. You can put numbers in there, letters, symbols, and all sorts. And whatever letters or symbols you put in there, you then need to put in the key section on here. So what this is basically saying is the hashtags are diamonds, and the S is the magnet template, and the C is an iron ingot. So we're going to be using iron ingots to duplicate this template, and the result is going to be the magnet template. And because we're putting 1 in, we need to get 2 out. So it's got count of 2. on the output there. So if we save that, go back into the game again, grab some diamonds and some iron, and go to a crafting table. Now we can put the diamonds round there, our template at the top, our iron ingot there, and let's just put one of those in so you can see, and that's going to give us 2 templates back again. So now we can duplicate our smithing template, which is absolutely fantastic, just like you can with the ones in vanilla. But now we need to be able to find it in the world. So we're done with our recipes. We don't need those anymore, but we are going to need a new folder in our behavior pack folder, and this is going to be loot tables. Now, I decided the best place to find these smithing templates would be in a blacksmith's village chest. And the way we have to actually tell the game that's where it's going to be is we need some more folders. So we're going to create a new folder inside of loot tables called chests. Then we're going to make a new folder inside of chests called village. That's very important. If you don't do that, these won't appear in the blacksmith chests. And then in that folder, we need a new file. We're going to call it villageblacksmith.json. Now, obviously, that's a vanilla loot table that already exists in the game. So the best thing to do would be to just grab that file and duplicate it as part of our pack. So let's do that. I've come to the Minecraft 1.20.12.1 data folder because that's the current version of the game that I'm playing. I'm going to go inside behavior packs. And now I need to find the most recent version of that file, which means going through every single one of these and seeing if they've updated the villager chests in that one, which is an absolute pain to do that. There is another way of doing this, which is a little bit easier, and that is to use the internet. So I typed in Google Minecraft add-on templates, and the first thing that comes up is the Bedrock add-on templates. And then you've got here Minecraft creator tutorials for add-ons. Let's click on that top one there. And it tells you basically that going forward, all of these templates can be found on GitHub. So let's go to the GitHub page. And we don't want the preview one, really. We want the most recent one that's stable release, which is actually not the version that's available, but this is the last version available here. And there's a couple of ways we could do this. We could just download the source code, or we could go to the code part itself and actually look through here. So if we go in behavior pack, and then loot tables, and then chests, and then village, you can see in here we've got all of the village chests that's available, and we want the blacksmith, which apparently doesn't exist in here. It's got village blacksmith there, not inside the village folder, and that won't work. It won't work if you put it there. Believe me, trust me on this, I actually tried it. Mojang here have made yet another boo-boo putting files in the wrong place. I followed this to the word. I put the village blacksmith file inside the chest folder and not the village one, and it didn't work. It has to go inside here. But that doesn't mean we can't steal it from here and copy it from there. So let's go to that village blacksmith file, click it, and then there's a handy button at the top here. We can do copy raw file. So we'll just copy that, and we'll go to our villageblacksmith.json file, and I'm just going to paste it in there. And then we need to add in our new smithing template. So the way these work is basically like rolling a dice. So you can see here we've got rolls. So it's saying to get all of these items within this pool, and a pool is basically just a bunch of different items that's possible to generate, it's going to roll this a minimum of 3 times and a maximum of 8 times. And for each item, there's a different minimum and maximum you can get and all that sort of good stuff. So we need to create a new pool. And the way we're going to do that is I'm going to drop down from there, throw in some curly braces and put a comma. So now we've got a new pool. Now we want this to appear every single time in a village blacksmith chest. So we're going to make this nice and easy. We're going to do rolls. And instead of having a minimum and maximum, we're just going to have 1. So it will always roll this. Then we need a comma, and then we need entries. And in entries, it is an array. So we've got square braces, and then we have an object. So we've got curly braces. And inside of there, we need the item type. So we're going to put in type, item, because it is an item. We're going to put name, FXNT magnet template, because that's what we called it. It needs to be exactly the same what's in the item file like we mentioned before. And we only need 1 of these, so we don't need to add in any functions for counts or anything like that. We don't need a wait because there's only 1 of these being selected. So that should pretty much do it. Let me just check that against my prep one just to make sure I've done this right. And I did put a wait of 1 in there, but I don't think we need that. So there's only one way to find out. We're going to go back to our game, but of course we need a village, which we're not going to get in a flat world. So let's create a new world. I'm going to call it Magnet Loot Test. I'm going to put it in creative. I'm going to put it in peaceful so I don't have to deal with mobs. I'm going to turn fire spreads off because I don't like it. I'm I'm going to turn coordinates on so I can tell where I am. I'm going to turn multiplayer off so no one sneaks into my game. I'm going to turn cheats on, put it on always day. Going to turn mob spawning off because we don't need mobs. I'm going to turn weather cycle off because I don't like it. And then I'm going to add my behavior pack, which is magnet boots, not magnet prep, magnet boots. Add that, and that should automatically add in my resource pack, which it has done. Now, I haven't added any experiments on here yet, and I believe some of the things that we've created are going to need holiday creative features, and certainly later on we're going to need beta APIs, but just let's see what happens if we don't add those and click on Create World. How many errors are we going to get? A couple. See, the reason I wanted to check is a lot of the items in the custom items experiment are coming out of experimental slowly but surely, but it is saying here that Minecraft armor and Minecraft wearables still need the holiday creative features toggle in settings. But that's not going to hurt us with loot tables, so all we need now is a village. So if we locate structure village and click on enter, it's going to tell us where the closest village is. And I think that was roughly about where it said to go, so I'm going to TP to those coordinates. And there we go, we are inside a village. But does it have a village blacksmith? This could be a problem. I spent literally hours wandering around the other day on a test world when I was doing my prep, trying to find a village with a blacksmith. And, well, it took me absolutely ages. But I will find one, don't worry. Let's run that command again. And this time we're going to use true, so it'll only give us new chunks and hopefully won't give us the village we're already in. Yes, it did. This is good. 2072 by 2088, both on the minus. And we have a desert village, and unfortunately I don't know what the blacksmith looks like in a desert village, which is not particularly useful for us, so I'm going to teleport around a little bit, try and find a village blacksmith, and then show you what the result was. Well, peeps, I think I may have found a little bit of a bug. You see, this is definitely a blacksmith's house, and in my preparation world, which I did in 1.20.10, the blacksmith I found, which is not necessarily this one because this is a random one, definitely had the smithing template in it because I tested it. I 100% tested in it, but there's something really weird going on here. So back in 1.20.12, the only way I can really explain this is to use a structure block, because we all know this building is the blacksmith's building. It's always been the blacksmith's building. It's a blacksmith. And like I say, in testing, this worked. But using a wonderful program called NBT Studio, we can open up structure blocks and see what's inside them. And you can see that this chest here that I've exported is actually not a village blacksmith. It is a village weaponsmith. I've also noticed that the loot table seed are no longer random. The loot table seed is the same every single time you open that chest at that village. In the good old days, this used to be 0, which meant, let's save this structure, that if I use this structure block to load in that chest, then I copy that chest with the data value, then every single time I open that chest, it's going to be completely different inside. That's what the seed being 0 does, and that's what allows map makers to create truly random looting games. But this is a weaponsmith chest, not a blacksmith chest. So going back to MPG Studio, I can actually change the loot table that it's pulling from to the village blacksmith or anything else that I would like to put in the game instead. And then when I save that and go back to Minecraft and break all of these boxes and kill all of the items and get rid of that chest and then load this again, then the chest here this time should be the blacksmith chest, which has our smithing template in there. So you can see the loot tables working 100%, but it appears that the blacksmith structure doesn't actually use a blacksmith chest, it uses a weaponsmith chest, which is a bit annoying. But the good news is this is a ridiculously easy fix for us, because all we got to do is change our file from village blacksmith to village weaponsmith. That being said, all of the other loot data is wrong, and we need to get the correct stuff back from that website. So let's go back to the website, go into the village one, find the weaponsmith one, click on the copy, go back to code, and this time we don't want to affect our magnet thing, so let's just copy and paste over all of that, which is going to cause a problem at the top because we've got extra data in the top here we don't want. So let's get rid of that, and then if we tidy that up a bit, that should be absolutely fine. So if I save that, change the loot table for this chest back to a weaponsmith chest on that structure block. Bear in mind, you don't have to do any of this if you get it right the first time, unlike me. Go back to this world, get rid of this chest, load that in again, copy that, and place that down. Now our weaponsmith chest has the smithing template in every single time. So there will always be one smithing template in every single one of these chests that you find in a blacksmith, in a weaponsmith's chest. Jays. Anyway, so now we can find our smithing template in the world, we can duplicate it, and we can make all of our boots, but our boots still do nothing. So let's use the cheesiest, easiest way of making these magnetized, and then we'll do a better way. So the cheesiest, easiest way to make our boots magnetized is to make a new folder and call it functions. And inside that folder, make a new file called tick.json. And in this file, I'm going to do some copy and pasting again from our prep folder. And it's very simple. All we have is an open curly braces, values, open array, tick, and then close it all off. And what that does is that tick there responds to another file we're going to make called tick.mcfunction. So whatever this function name is called, so I've called it tick, you can call it whatever you want. Every single game tick, this will run that. So that there, tick, corresponds to that there. So if I'd called that loop or anything else, I would have to change this here to match that. So that means that this function file is going to run every single tick, and there's a really easy way we can magnetize our boot using an execute command. So here I have a command that says execute as a player, which is any player, but only a player that has the item magnet boots level 1 on their feet. Okay, so location, slot, armor, feet. That's saying you need to have that item on your feet, not just anywhere in your inventory, but you need to actually be wearing it. That's the item that we're looking for. And then what it's going to do is it's running at, so the location at S of this player. So execute as a player at that player, and then run teleport at E, so entity, type equals item, so any item within a radius of 4 blocks around that player, to that player, and true means to avoid blocks. We don't actually need that. So then what we need to do to get all the different levels is copy and paste that the 2 times, change that from magnet boots 1 to magnet boots 2, then to magnet boots 3, and increase the radius. So if you're wearing magnet boots 3, you're going to pick up blocks within a radius of 8 blocks. If you're wearing magnet boots 2, you'll get them from 6 blocks. And if you're wearing magnet boots 4, you'll get them in a radius of 4 blocks. So let's test this out and see what happens. So the first thing we're going to need to do is grab ourselves some magnet boots. And then I guess we want a whole bunch of items. So let's just throw a whole bunch of items down on the floor around the area so we can see what's going on here. Now I'm going to put on my magnet boots level 1, like that. So now when I get close within 4 blocks of these items, they're just going to teleport to me instantly. I put on my level 2 boots like this, it's going to get them from slightly further away. And then if I put my level 3 boots on, it's going to get them from even further away. And now this is great. It's a really nice, easy way of doing it. It's not very laggy because it's only running a couple of commands every tick. But there is a big problem with this one. Imagine you've got a farm running somewhere, and there are lots of items being generated that farm, and you've got that farm all neatly squirreled away behind some glass, or maybe it's underneath you on a floor below you in your base, or above you, or somewhere like that. And you come along with your magnet 3 boots on, and doesn't matter what blocks are in your way, all of a sudden you're going to pick up those items, which is not ideal. So let's take some inspiration from XP. Let me fly up a little bit, throw down a few bottles of XP like this, and you'll notice that XP has a different function to items on the ground. It will slowly move towards the player, but if there's something in the way, like this glass, it can go through the glass, I guess. It shouldn't, but yeah, it should stop at the glass and then follow the player along, almost as if it's been magnetized to the player. How do we achieve this? Well, it's actually pretty simple, but it does mean getting rid of our functions. So let's get rid of our functions. I'm going to get rid of this structures folder for showing you how the blacksmith chest works, because we don't need that anymore, and I don't want to confuse you all. And now this is where we start writing the beta API stuff. So we're going to create a new folder called scripts, and inside that folder we're going to have a new file called index.js. This is a JavaScript file, not a JSON file. Bear in mind, when we did the sleep anytime video last time, in our manifest file, we have in our scripts module here, the entry scripts/index.js. If you want to have your index.js file, or in any file, you can call it whatever you want. If you want to have that somewhere else, then you need to tell the game here where it is and what it's called. But this is where I'm going to put it because this is a nice, easy place to remember. Now, this is going to get mildly complicated, but not too complicated, hopefully. So let me pull up my other file. Let's get rid of those for a second because we don't need them. And then you can see there's quite a bit going on with this function that we're going to be writing, but it's not as complicated as it might look. The first thing we're going to need in our file is to import the world and system from the Minecraft server as we did last time. Then what we need to do is set up a function that runs every game tick. So we're going to call it function ticker and create a function, and that's not going to run every game tick unless we do something else. So we're going to do system run interval, and then we're going to create an empty function inside of that, and we're just going to say ticker. And we're going to say every 3 game ticks, I want you to run that function. So this is basically saying every 3 game ticks, run this function. Now what we need to do inside of this function is detect items on the ground and detect players wearing boots, which means we need a dimension because this game uses dimensions rather than just the whole world to detect where things are. And there's 3 dimensions in this world, and we need to detect every single one of them. So before we start writing in that function, we're going to create an array called dimensions. Const dimensions equals, and then we've got overworld, nether, and the end. Now they need to be spelled exactly like that. You can, if you want, use the namespace in front of them, but you don't need to. That's absolutely fine. And we want this thing to run in every single dimension. So what we're going to do is dimensions dot for each, and then in brackets, dimension, and then we're going to open a function and then close it again. So every 3 ticks, it's going to run this function in every dimension. Const this dimension equals world, get dimension, and then dimension. So what this is doing, it's asking the server to get the dimension from the world based on this text. So we're saying for each one of these, so for every one of these, overworld, nether, and the end, we're passing through this string here in that, and we're putting it in there. So it's loading up all the information from each dimension into this constant here. Now we need to find the players. So we're going to do const players equals this dimension and this dimension dot get players. And the reason we're putting this dimension and, what we're doing is a little bit of error correcting here. We're saying if for whatever reason this dimension isn't loaded and it can't get it, then it will only try and find the players using this function here from the dimension if that returns not false. So if it actually, let's say the world's just loaded in and it hasn't actually managed to grab that dimension yet, then if we try to find the players from it, it'd throw an error, but by doing this, it's going to stop that error being thrown. But then we do want to also do a little bit more error correcting by going, if this dimension doesn't exist or the players don't exist, then return. Don't do anything, just go back and do this loop again next time. So if there's no players or no dimensions loaded, there's no need to run anything else, so just stop and then just wait for the next time it runs this tick. Now what we need to do is for every single player, see if they're wearing boots. So we're going to do players for each, just like we did with dimensions, and this time we're going to do player, open a function, and then for every single player, in every single dimension, every 3 ticks, it's going to run this function. And we need to find out what they're wearing. So we're going to use an experimental function to find out what they're wearing. So we're going to do const equipment inventory equals player dot get component, and the component we want to find is equipment inventory. So this is basically your armor slots, your offhand, and your main hand. This is how you detect what items players have on them or in their hands. But we don't want the whole inventory, we just want one of those things. So we're going to do const equipment equals equipment inventory, and again, just to make sure that it only runs this if that is not false. If it's actually found something, it will run the next thing, otherwise it won't. And we're going to do equipment inventory get equipment feet, because we're only interested in the item the player is wearing on their feet, because we're looking for them having magnet boots. Now we're going to do something a little bit complicated in order to determine whether they've got magnet boots on their feet rather than using if or else statements, and we're going to create a map. Not the sort of map that you use to find things, but a map that JavaScript uses to find things. So we're going to do const boot level map equals, and then we're going to open an object, and in there we're going to have all of our magnet boots 1 for instance, And this is where we're going to determine how big the radius around the player is going to be for each level of boots. So I'm going to have 4 for the magnet boots 1, copy and paste that twice, 6 and 8, and then we need to change those to magnet boots 2 and 3. So we basically created a map saying when it finds this later on in what we're about to write, if it's magnet boots 1, then the radius we're going to be using is 4, magnet boots 2, 6, magnet boots 3 and is 8. So now we need to determine, based on this map, what type of footwear the player is wearing. So now then we're going to do const magnet level, and then we need to basically do an if/else statement, but we're wrapping it all up into this very simple line here. So this is saying if equipment exists, so if it's not false or null, if it exists, then this is the answer, or this is the answer. If it doesn't exist, then the answer is 0. So our magnet level, if equipment doesn't exist, is 0. However, if it does exist, then what we're doing is we're saying the type ID from the equipment. So type ID would return, let's say you're wearing diamond boots, type ID would equal Minecraft diamond boots. The equipment type ID, which one of these is it? So it's pulling it out from the map. That gives us our magnet level. So just to try and reiterate that, because it's quite complicated, this is saying it's grabbing the equipment from the player, what's on their feet. If the type ID of that equipment matches one of these things from here, it's going to grab the level that we've written there and put that in the magnet level. And if it can't find that, it's going to be 0. And it's as simple as that, sort of, kind of. So now we've got a magnet level. We only want to detect items around the player for optimization's sake if they've actually got a magnet level higher than 0. So we're going to do if magnet level is greater than 0, then we're going to do some more things. So we need to find items around the player, which is pretty easy thing to do. So we're going to do const player location equals player.location, and that's the location of that player, which is nice and easy. Then we want to find the items. So we're going to do const items equal this dimension. So we're looking for entities in this dimension, get entities, but we only want items. So inside of our entities brackets there, we're going to put some curly braces and we're going to define what item types we're looking for, or entity types we're looking for. So I'm just going to break this open a little bit so it's easier to read, and we're going to do location. So this is where we're looking for those, and we're going to use the player location for that. Now, we technically don't actually need this line here. We could just use player.location there and save ourselves a line. That's absolutely fine. We want the maximum distance from the player to be our magnet level. So that's the same as our function that we wrote earlier, the radius. Our maximum distance from this location that we're finding entities is based on our magnet level. And then the type of entity we want to find is nice and easy. It's Minecraft item. We only want items being found from this thing. So that's going to find around this player in this dimension any items within a certain distance of that player based on what level of boots they're wearing. Now we're going to say if it doesn't find any items, so if no items, then return. Don't do anything. No point in wasting processing power doing more things if there aren't any items. And then if it does find items, then we need to go through each one of those and make them do something. So we're going to do items for each item, and then we're going to run a function. So this is now saying for every single item it finds around that player within that distance, then we're going to run a function. And basically what we want to do is pull these items towards that player like the XP is being done. So we need the item location, which we can get from item location. And then we need to calculate whereabouts they are in relation to the player in order to drag them towards the player. So we're going to write a new function which is calculating that. So we're going to come right out of this ticker function. We're going to come down here and we're going to go function, calculate impulse. And then this is going to be based on the location of the player and the location of the item. And we want to be able to set a speed that the items are going to be going towards that player with as well. So we're going to have a third variable there for speed. So before we write that function, going back to our items, we're going to do const impulse equals calculate impulse, and we're going to do the player dot location, the item dot location, and then a speed, which speed's a bit tricky with applying impulses and stuff with the beta system. You'll find you actually want things ridiculously, seemingly slow rather than fast, because like a speed of 1 is like light speed. It's crazy. So we're going to go 0.3, which is basically player walking speed, I think. So let's close that. And then once we've calculated the impulse, we need to apply that to the item. So we're going to do item.apply impulse and then the impulse. So basically, applying an impulse is giving an entity a speed in a direction in 3D space. So we're calculating the impulse of what speed, what direction it needs to go in on all 3 axes, X, Y, and Z, and then it's applying that to each of the items. So let's go to this rather complicated calculate impulse function, which you feel free to copy and paste because it's a bit of a nightmare. So in 3D space, there are 3 coordinates, X, Y, and Z. And those are represented in something called a vector, or a vector 3 in Minecraft's case. And the vector 3 basically looks like, so let's say let vector equals, and then it's an object with X being something, Y being something, and Z being something. X is the east to west direction, Y is up and down, and Z is north to south. This can be used for location as well as velocity, i.e. speed. So let's say this vector was for speed. If we add X as 1 in there, it's going to be traveling east at a speed of 1. If we had Y as 1 in there, it's going to be traveling upwards with a speed of 1. If we're traveling south, it would be Z with a speed of 1. And if we're traveling south, it would be Z with a -1. So we need to determine exactly what direction we want these items to travel so they're heading towards the player. And rather than trying to explain that complicated mess, copy and paste this function and then just amend it slightly so it's easier for you guys to read. So first of all, we need to know the direction of which we want the items to go. And the way that goes is we want to get the player's location and then take the item location away from that. And that's going to give us the direction in 3D space of which the items need to travel in. Nice and easy. Then we need to know the magnitude of how they need to go based on, you know, what direction they are in from the player, which is a nightmare. Now, I'm not going to lie. ChatGPT wrote this for me because it's clever. It's a lot cleverer than I am. But basically, it's normalizing the direction vector to get a unit vector in order to then use that in order to calculate the speed based on our speed number here that they need to go towards the player. So once you've got all of that, copied and pasted in that, then this whole thing should work. Let's find out. I know it's very complicated. I know writing a function in the function thing and teleporting them to you is a lot easier, but this should be way better. Let's find out. Let's go and chuck a load of items down behind this glass. Now you'll notice items actually on Bedrock Edition do clump together in order to be relatively optimized anyway. If you throw a load of items down in the same space, they'll actually join together. So we've chucked a load of items down there. Let's put our magnet boots level 1 on, which I've just done. And let's walk towards this glass. And hopefully we're going to now see those items, there we go, coming towards the player. But they're not going to go to the player because it can't get through the glass. It's acting just like XP does. And if we fly above them, you'll notice that they start to fly in the air when we get close enough to them. And the stronger the boots we wear, the more likely they are to travel towards the player because it's reaching a further distance. But it can only do it if they're not stuck behind blocks. Well, hang on a minute. Well, stay. Let's just take my boots off so I can demonstrate this again. Let's put these down behind here again, put our big old strength 3 boots on, and you'll see these things will come to the glass. But because there's a block in the way, they can't physically travel through it. They can clump together, but they can't come through the glass. So there we go. We have items acting like XP when we're wearing our magnet boots, and that will work in every dimension because we told it to. We told it that we wanted this to work in every single dimension. So let's just double check it works. Take my boots off so I can actually throw these items down. Throw a few over there and put my boots on. And there we go. They all come to the player. And there we go. As simple as that. That took ages and it was complicated. Yes. But now you can create custom items. You can create smithing templates. You can make loot appear in the world wherever you want it to. And you can even write functions and beta API stuff in order to wield things in the world, detect what the player's wearing, and make items do what you want them to do. If you've managed to get to this point, well done. Thank you very, very, very much for watching. And hopefully I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.